Kuphela kuphi emakhaya amadolobha nasekoplasta khona sawubona ke mbukeli sesifikile ke sine nehlelo ilungelo lakho to your right silethela ke lapha kubahamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure kanye ke na SABC Plus mina ke ngiyiSimphiwe Ncongwane bekunene simo ke semnotho siya ngeke kuba madima baya ngekwanza abantu phela bangasakwadi kumelana nempilo ngenzaba yekweswela imisebenzi at least 4 out of 10 youth are jobless asizingena enzabeni yethu ke kuva ngetinhlelo letawuletha lithemba Insha leningi ke eningizimu Afrika sayilahlekelwa lithemba lekuthola emathuba emsebenzi ngenxa yesimo lesibabhucayi semnotho kepha ke sengathi kukhonyana ke lo ngathi kuyathembisa lokutawuletha luhlelo lolibambisana ke emkhathini kwahulumende nemabhizinisi luhlelo ke lwe-YES noma ke lwe-Yes for Youth Economic Program selusitekela abanengi yebo ke mbukele the Yes Program for Youth has delivered hope to thousands of jobless youth. Kukhuluma kabantu ngenzaba ke asesimukele Ravi Naidoo yena ke umele ke luhlelo lwe-Youth Economic Support noma ke ES Program kanye ke na Dr. Kate Phillips lomele ke i-Presidential Employment Stimulus Program. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us and a warm welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, Ravi, I'm going to start with you. Just paint a picture of youth unemployment in South Africa. Where are we in terms of those figures?
So officially, we have about 5 million young people under the age of 35 who are without work, actively looking for work, can't find work. So that's about 46% of the total under 35 age group. And the reasons for that are twofold. One is if you're going to create jobs, you have to have economic growth. And sadly, for 15 years, we've had GDP growth of about 0.9% a year. Is that good? Well, the population is growing by 1.4%. So if economic growth is here and the population is growing here, it means you are, per person, poorer. So that makes it harder for employers to go out and employ. That's the first problem. The second problem is education and skills. You know, the World Economic Forum that measures countries, out of 148 countries for maths and science, we were like number 148. And on the education system overall, we were in the bottom 10%. So it means very competitive market because not a lot of jobs. People are competing for jobs. But the education system is not helping young people. And they've got an extra problem, which is, you know, you need work experience to get a job, but where would you get your first experience from? And that's why then programs like YES were created to try to bridge that gap.
Yeah. And having said that, Ravi, you know, when we talk of youth employment or youth entrepreneurship, then there's that element of capacitating the youth to be self-employed. Where are we then in terms of capacitating such youth? Because youth unemployment is one thing, and then youth entrepreneurship is another, and then youth capacitation is a totally different ballgame altogether.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing that helps people, so firstly, it's great. When you have people set up businesses, that's where jobs come from.
Yeah.
Someone sets up businesses, they hire people as the business grows. So, and we need more young people to get some experience to set up a business. Now, it's always better to set up a business after you've worked somewhere before, at least you understand what is required. So the challenge we have is when people go straight into setting up the business and there's no mommy or daddy there to help them because maybe they haven't set up a business before and that young person hasn't had the experience themselves. Then you have a 95% chance of going bankrupt, losing your money. Your chances get much, much better when you've had some work experience. So with the YES program, because people have been working in companies, we're finding about somewhere between 15 and 20% of all the young people in the program go and set up a business. So we found last year from our program, 7,100 people set up a business. And that's, you know, from our program alone, but we want the whole country to do that. But as I say, your chances improve when you start a business after you have worked before.
Absolutely.
So I think ideally, if schools were teaching people to set up a business from, you know, grade 10, 11, 12, just for practice, that's even better. But, you know, small steps. But, yeah.
Yeah. Kate, let me also bring you in. What do you think, why do you make of Ravi's sentiment that, you know, you at least you have to work somewhere for you to get some sort of experience, for you to be able to start a business? And where does the presidential employment stimulus come in?
Ravi's absolutely right. And the data shows that, in fact, prior work experience is a much stronger indicator of likelihood of being employed than skills at any level. So the private sector really values work experience, and one of the big problems for young people is that they can't get work because they've never had work. That's the cycle we're trying to break with our kinds of programs, is to give people that first work opportunity, to give people the opportunity to learn the soft skills that employers say they lack. Yeah. So things like time management, task management, communication skills, accountability, discipline, all of those things are not things that you get a certification for, but they're absolutely critical to your productivity in the workplace. And so these programs that give people work experience are about breaking the cycle. That means young people are shut out of the labour market.
Yes.
Where the presidential employment stimulus comes in, and we're complementary programs that work well together, the presidential employment stimulus was actually launched in the context of the COVID pandemic. We already had a crisis of unemployment at that time, but you will know that with the pandemic, we lost another 2 million jobs.
Yeah.
And so the decision was made to publicly fund forms of employment, but also forms of livelihood support and support to self-employed people through an employment stimulus that has since then created over 2.2 million job and livelihood opportunities for people. Young people make up 75 to 80% of the total who have benefited, but the presidential employment stimulus is not only for young people. And we have a range of programs within the stimulus targeting different segments of the affected market.
Yeah, clearly the presidential employment stimulus, you know, is one that helps youth to get employed. But are you advocating for youth entrepreneurship? Or
yes,
what's your position with regards to that?
Our primary focus is the provision of public employment. So, for example, our single biggest program is the biggest youth employment program in South Africa's history.
Okay.
It has now in its 5th iteration, and each cohort has employed over 200,000 young people, placed as assistants in schools across the country. So these young people are placed in over 20,000 schools. Every community in the country has a school. Every community in the country now has youth jobs. And those jobs are providing young people with a really meaningful work experience that ticks all the boxes that employers say they need. So, you know, part of our contribution on the entrepreneurship side is exactly as Ravi said. The data again shows that small businesses run by people with no prior work experience are more likely to fail. If we want small businesses to succeed, we actually, again, have to break that cycle of unemployment, give people work experience that they can take either into formal employment or self-employment or, you know, livelihood activity.
Okay.
By the way, we have other programs as well, and some of them are a bit more focused on that entrepreneurial interface, but I'm happy to come back to that.
Yes, let's do that. Let's talk about those ones.
Okay, so one of our programs is called the Social Employment Fund. And it's a slightly different model. You know, so the schools model is people are employed through an adjunct to the public sector, if you like. So it's the Department of Basic Education and the provinces who are doing the employing at school level. The Social Employment Fund was set up in the Industrial Development Corporation in support of the social economy. And it works with non-state organizations who are doing all kinds of work at community level. And in South Africa, we have an enormous number of organizations doing what we call work for the common good.
So you mean the financiers or the financial institutions?
I'm talking
about
non-profit organizations, community-based organizations.
Okay, all right.
Who are doing work in food security. They're doing early childhood development. They're doing catchment management. They're doing combating gender-based violence. So there's a wide range of forms of work that are happening in communities. One of our straplines is there's no shortage of work to be done to make South Africa a better place.
Yes.
And that is the kind of work that is being done at community level. So the Social Employment Fund supports those non-profit entities to expand the work that they're already doing to deliver social value of this kind. That program is a part-time program. It goes on for longer than some of the other programs, but it's 2 days of work a week. And part of the logic there is that 2 days of work a week gives people regular and predictable income, and it de-risks their engagement in complementary livelihood and self-employment activity. And in the last financial year, we saw some 12,000 of 50,000 participants were engaged in complementary livelihood activity.
Kate, I'm quite keen to know more about this this facet of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program. But please hold your thoughts. Let's now take a quick break. Let's go pay the bills. Mbukele sibambe lapho sisishile ngasetitolo hlala kanye nasi kungasanyakati. Leli lungelo lakho siyabuya khona manje. So, our studio lines are now open for you to take part in this discussion. Washara litingo kona manje kona la studio ku 011-714-0671 noma ke 011-714-0672 uvakalisa umbono wakho ngendzaba yethu namhla. You can also send us a WhatsApp to 060-844-9857. Siyatfolakala futhi na ku Facebook. Ungasithumela futhi na email ukuthi umbuto wakho noma ke ma suggestions akho ku consumer@sabc.co.za. So we'd really love to hear from you, and I particularly urge the young people, the youth of South Africa, to watch this program, to call in, to send in their thoughts, suggestions, or maybe questions, because the YES program and as well as the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program experts are right here in studio. So this show is definitely for you. Now, before we went to that break, you're just telling us about the Social Employment Fund, which funds some of the key the community initiatives that seek to create more employment. Tell us more about it.
So the Social Employment Fund supports non-profit organizations who are working at community level, and they in turn partner with more community-based organizations. And their brief is to create work for the common good across the spectrum of issues. Anything that communities identify as serving the common good at a local level, and where there's an agency and enthusiasm to undertake that work, the Social Employment Fund supports those implementing partners.
Okay.
But as I was explaining, as a part-time program, it has a strong emphasis on supporting participants to build up their repertoire of complementary economic activities.
Maybe I understand when you say part-time program. Does that mean it's a short-term program, or what does part-time mean?
It's 2 days a week. Each cycle lasts about a year. And our funding, we are in quite a tough fiscal environment in the country, and so we've only ever had funding confirmed on a one-year to one-year basis. So that has limited the time frame within which the program can happen. But it is part of the design of the program is that regular and predictable work gives people income security, and embarking on entrepreneurial activity involves risk. If you don't know that you're going to get an income, a regular income, the trade-off on what you do with your income and whether or not you invest it in startup activity can be a really tough one. So part of the logic is that regular and predictable income provides a kind of what we call support scaffolding that supports people to start experimenting with self-employment opportunities, with livelihood activities, with income-generating activities that can start to then replace their need to participate on the program.
Right. Now, Ravi, how do you track the success of the YES program, and who do you target? Do you target the school leavers or university graduates?
So the YES program it's brief, if I take the same language Kate was using, is about taking talented young people from disadvantaged backgrounds and preparing them for the economy, mainly to work in the private sector.
Okay.
So they'll work in BMW and then, hopefully stay in the motor industry and help us build the motor industry. They might become drone pilots because we need drone pilots to grow the economy, or become baristas because we have a growing, coffee universe in South Africa, and it's part of the scene. So we would then have a supporting mandate to what Kate is doing, but our focus would then be to draw in people who will match what the private sector needs to future-proof the country economically and maybe boost growth. So we would track it with the companies, because the companies are, if they're sponsoring the youth, they really want their money to work for them. They're hiring people more than they otherwise would, and we are tracking how many of them at the end of the program have ended up being permanently absorbed. So if I take that baristas example, we run the National Baristas Program with some companies, and 90% of all the youth, because now they've been trained to make lattes the way that brand wants them made, they stay in the company, right? So if we take, let's say, the clothing retailers like Vushini, who does very big programs, it's part of their 5-year plan to build junior managers. So they're going to go into IT, admin, and they keep 70%.
So basically, since you target the youth between the age bracket of 18 to 35, I would imagine an 18-year-old does not have work experience, doesn't have the qualification, but they still qualify for that program. So what kind of work do you avail or offer to them?
Yeah, so it depends again on what the company needs, and so there's two pathways forward. The biggest pathway, which is what we like, is where the company knows, you know, we are BMW, we are building the X3. We don't care if they're 18 or 34. We have a role for them in the Rosalind plant. And it could be something in technology, HR department. In fact, you can do it as an 18-year-old, because the main thing is not so much the qualifications, it's the attitude, it's the behavioral aspects that are taken at a premium. So that's the one stream for most youth to go, and we get very, very high absorption at the end. Because like I say, with the baristas example, the company spend time investing in you. If they've used that whole 12-month period where they're working full-time in the program as a 12-month interview. So that's really high absorption, and we track everyone every month and so on. The second stream is possibly, for me, more exciting. That's where we're building the country in terms of we sit with maybe the presidency that is with us, or DTI, or the big industry associations, and say, what are we trying to build in South Africa? Because we could take youth from TVET colleges, from Kate's program, other programs, give them experience, let's say, in green transition jobs, green hydrogen jobs, because we want skills to end up there, because those are the future technicians to build that industry for South Africa. So they can either go into the company, and the company knows they need baristas, or the company might overfund the program, and they say, Ravi, you decide. And that becomes where we become almost like a sector builder. And obviously our whole focus is monitoring and evaluation, because we need to know, how is this company's program better than that company's program? Why did more people end up in permanent jobs there than that? So we ran last year 1,033 different corporate programs simultaneously.
Oh, wow.
So we track all the time. So we've done so far 4,950 corporate programs for a year, working 12 months.
Wow.
Over 200,000 people. So we have data on what makes one person or one program more effective than the other. So now we try to reverse engineer our future programs and say, okay, so what have you learned? How do we make next year's programs more effective?
Interesting. Let's take our first caller. Sinas Thembiso ke ulapha Lady Smith. A very good afternoon to you. Sakumono hleleni sawubona.
Yebo njani baba?
Siphilile kunjani baba?
Siyaphila baba.
Khuluma nami. What's on your mind?
Webhuti wami la nginenkinga yokuthi besilo sazi ukuthi siyafunda sonke isikhathi, but into eshayayo la kule youth ekhulunywa ngayo i1 ufike ufunde, and uma usuqeda ukufunda wazofika ngisho in-service program oyitholayo, noma mhlawumbe uthola internship program, uthole ukuthi ke i-window of employment seyincane, then emva kwaloko usuno 35 already. Ikhona yini mhlambe ngicela ukubuza nje la kubaphathi ukuthi iyiphi program abayibekela abantu mhlambe asebeno 35 mhlambe up to 45, because sonke ngicabanga ukuthi siyawudinga umsebenzi, kodwa ngibona ukuthi uhulumeni akasibekeleli endabeni zokuthi thina esisifunde kanzima kuba kuthiwa education is the key, but now ngifundile ngaze ngaba nabantu abadependela kumina mhlambe njengabantwana. Futhi namanje after 35 years angisakhona ukusupport abantwana bami, and mina manje angisabalwa indabeni zokuqashwa.
Okay, let me find out from you, Sithembiso, ukuthi na uthi ufunzile ufunze e-tertiary nekuthi ke nhloboni qualification lonayo, nekuthi ke ever since waceda ukufunza vele umsebenzi awuzange sowuthole?
Ngithema ngicela ukufunda ngibe ngifundisa na department. So bengisayibala ngegama. So yangitrainer, yangifundisa ngenze HR, ngathola ibhazari, ngenze HR diploma, of which mangiceda yona ngaza le business administration, mangiqeda lapho ngasengenzisa futhi IT but emva kwaloko ngenxa ye-pandemic uyathi ukuthi department ayisenamali so ngaleyo ndlela ngagcina sengistrategisha manje funa umsebenzi esebenza ngitholi iloko nginaleyo nkinga nayo.
Okay, Sithembiso, siyabonga kakhulu ukusishayela. Thank you so much for your call, and they'll definitely assist you on what to do in this regard. Thank you so much for your call. Now, Ravi and Kate, I will explain in just a moment, but for now we'll take a quick break. Mbukeli sisike ngasetitolo. Please do stay with us. Leli ke Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome back everybody. Khumbula ukuthi incingo tethu sesivuliwe ukuthi nawe ungaba ingcenye yenkulumo yethu namhla ngasishela icingo khona la e-studio khona manje ku 0117140671 noma ke 0117140672. Ungasithumela futhi na WhatsApp ku 0608449857 noma ke usithinze ku Facebook. You can also email your views, your thoughts, your suggestions to consumer@sabc.co.za. Now, before that break, we had a caller, Sthembiso from Ladysmith. He's basically saying that it's quite tricky because the window employment period is very short. He took advantage of some of the government departments' entrepreneurship and employment programs, but he didn't want to mention the government department. So he went through all those courses, ICT, business administration, and as well as HR. And by the time he was done, he was over the age of 35, and he doesn't qualify, I suppose, for the YES program. And he's not employed, he doesn't have employment, yet he's got a pile of certifications that he's acquired over the years. So I suppose it's a very tricky situation that he funds, and as well as other millions of youth fund themselves in.
Yeah. The situation he finds himself in is unfortunately a situation that many, many South Africans are in. I mean, at present, as the numbers that we heard earlier, our economy absorbs only 10%, less than 10% of the people who are actively looking for work each year. So it's unfortunate, but he's not alone in facing this situation. And right now, graduate unemployment is also one of the fastest growing segments of unemployment, which is very worrying. In the employment stimulus, we do have a strong focus on youth because youth unemployment is particularly bad. But many of our programs are not only for youth. So the Social Employment Fund, for example, is not only for youth. We have a creative sector support stimulus that is not only for youth. We've supported subsistence farmers, that's not only for youth. So, across government, not all of the programs are just for youth. And so, he really needs to do a bit of research and find out which programs can absorb him. But the reality is that it's a very tough labour market. And, if you take our schools program, the Basic Education Employment Initiative, 1.9 million young people applied for 200,000 jobs in the space of 3 weeks. That's how desperate people are to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I just chip in on that?
Yes, Ravi, go ahead.
Just from, so I think Kate's explained the bigger issue.
And I suppose your hands are tied when it comes to Sthembiso's issue, hey? Because he's way over 35.
Yeah, so the Youth Employment Service is limited by the fact that its name is Youth Employment Service, which in South Africa means 35 and under.
Yeah.
But because we have all this data on what makes people employable, that doesn't only work for under 35s, it works for everyone. So what we find is the things that really stand out in the case of your caller. So they've got qualifications from the public sector programs. I don't know what the quality of those are, but what always helps is when an employer looks at you and they can see you doing something. You're very active. So even while you are waiting to find a job and you're unable to find a job, are you helping someone for free? Are you doing, just so the CV is building up? People don't like a stagnant CV. Are you registering something as a CIPC, as a small business? It's the amount of activity you have. Are you engaging other people who may or may not have something for you? The more active you are with a social network that has jobs somewhere around it, it makes a difference. And when you do, in fact, present your CV to a possible employer, they want to know, and in the last 6 months, what have you been doing? And the more you can show, I've been helping SABC on the production thing, just, pro bono. They'll be like, oh, that's good, that's nice. And it's giving you insights. So I think all those things, we find it makes a big difference when employers are trying to recruit from a list, and how do you stand out? Because remember, there are a lot of people with the certificates.
Yeah.
So what makes you special in that regard?
And without preempting the caller's sentiment, the caller's Tembiso sentiment, I'm going to ask this question to both of you. What's the point then of studying if at the end of your studies you find yourself unemployed because A, you're overqualified but less experience, or zero experience at all?
Well, yeah. So I mean, it actually makes you smarter, right? In your field, you should have knowledge in your field, whatever you're studying. So, but the quality of the study matters, right? So you can get a certificate, but have you got the education, right? Do you actually know the thing that you got the certificate in? But I think more important than, or as important as the certificate is the working experience. So what we would find, a year of work experience is worth maybe 2 years of tertiary in practice.
Okay.
So if you've got the tertiary or post-school training, it works much better if there's some experience with it.
Okay.
So it's not that it's worthless. It's very important, but it becomes less valuable the longer you put it into practice.
Okay. All right, let's take our next caller. Sina Sfiso ulapha ke Witbank. Sakumole hleleni sawubona. All right, Sfiso has just dropped the line. What's your thoughts on that, Kate?
It comes back to this issue of work experience, because employers also know that certificates where the skills are not applied, those skills erode. And so once again, it becomes incredibly important that people have the opportunity to apply the skills that they have. And once again, that's why these programs do matter to break the cycle. You know, your caller is stuck in that cycle where he's got some skills, but he doesn't appear to have work experience. And so that's why it matters that the society creates the opportunities even when the economy can't.
Okay.
I think also we have tried, for example, again in our schools program, we have prioritized graduates, unemployed graduates, because every graduate skill can be used in strong and positive ways in the schooling system. And the work experience can be relevant. So I think the point is that as a society, a situation where people start to feel that it's not worth getting skills is an extremely dangerous situation for a society to be in.
Yeah.
And it means that the society actually, as a matter of policy, has to ensure that the incentives for education, the right education, quality education, education that is aligned with the needs of the society and the economy, all of that. But the society needs to ensure that there are incentives aligned with putting the effort and the investment into getting education. So if we allow a situation where people start to feel, oh, it's not worth that investment, that is a dangerous point for a society.
So as the presidential employment stimulus, what do you advocate for? Do you advocate for youth to capacitate themselves with entrepreneurial skills, or to shoot straight to varsity or college, or whatever the case may be?
Well, mostly we advocate for solutions that will deliver sustainable jobs. That's the most important priority in our society is, you know, we have a situation where the economy is not creating jobs at the scale of social need.
Yeah.
And so we see ourselves as just one cog in a bigger picture where the kinds of efforts that are underway to address the structural challenges in our economy, to deal with legacy issues, to unlock the potential of the economy to absorb people. That is the big picture message. But beyond that, people must take the opportunities that they can find and optimize them. If they have the opportunity to study, optimize that opportunity. If they have the opportunity to get work experience, take it to the full. Because many people are not finding opportunities, and so it's really about it's about making them work. And I think what we're also increasingly saying is that the expectation that even a work experience will kind of automatically lead you to a job in the formal sector, that's not the case. You have to think about what are you going to do if that's not what happens. Yes, you might still be shooting for that, but if you don't get a job in the formal sector, what is your fallback? What is your plan? What are you looking at in order to earn an income, in order to earn a livelihood, in order to be economically, in order to participate economically?
Right. Now, Ravi, what's the level or the status of collaboration between the YES program and as well as government agencies and the private sector players?
Yeah, so the Youth Employment Service comes out of a business and the presidency engaging and looking at what can the private sector do to promote long-term sustainability, right? So it's a public-private partnership. So it's fully funded by the private sector, but it works within the parameters of an agreement with government. So the presidency was the one that co-conceptualized it, and we have one instrument, which is a DTIC instrument. So if companies join us, why do they fund? They can be recognized for the contribution they're making to empowerment, because you're empowering youth. So that's, you can go up a level or 2 levels in your BE score if you are verified of having done the thing you said you're doing. Because it's not self-reported. You can't just say it. You have to be measured as having done it, right? So it's already in. So we sit in the same presidential working group, as it were, called the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. So let's say you come from a TVET college. That's totally different to YES. We would love to find people who've gone to TVETs and have, let's say, done work in infrastructure, and we find them, we put them into a YES program, we connect them with a company that's working to fix our infrastructure, and we say, see, now we've connected you to a demand-side job, great. So we would like to work like that, because we are very much on the demand side with the companies. But it's not our business to go and do the training and the database of youth. We can do it, but it's better to work with where government has poured, you know. Every year we spend 500 billion of taxpayer money on education and training.
Yes.
That's not coming to us. We love to tap it. And then our program could, or from Kate's program, we could draw the best people who finish there and say, okay, you've done well for 6 months. Can we put you in a 12-month program? And then that gives you 18 months of great support. So we're trying to find employment pathways so that all the money and the opportunities can work together. In the end, we want the best talent to be unlocked in the country to help to drive us forward. So I think that's the kind of model we're working with.
Indeed. Okay. Please hold your thoughts. Let's take our next caller. Sina Blessing ulapha ke Durban. Blessing, a very good afternoon to you. Sakumole ehlelweni sawubona.
Yebo, sawubona njani?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Siyaphila muntu enkosi, siyaphila man.
Ukhala kusithi baba. Khuluma nathi baba, khuluma nathi.
Yeah, no, nothing much but wami. Ngisathandana lana ukubeka uvo kancane nje ukuthi kahle isho ukuthini lento yokuthi sonke isikhathi mangabe kusizwakala for small business abantu abadala ba-include umehluko umuphi? Uma ukuthi mina ngimdala kusho ukuthi ngeke ngisizeke yini ekubeni omncane lokuthiwa youth but if ngine-business mina ngimdala angisizakali ngani? Umehluko umuphi ngokwe-age?
Umbuto wakho ukuthi umehluko yini emkhathini kokuthi ke ama-organizations la njenge-YES aside insha nalabadzala?
Yes. Okay. Whatever nje bakukhulunywa nje ukuthi we helping a young people. But let's say mina mangidala why bangingasizakala?
Okay, all right. Siyakuva baba. Thank you so much for your call. Sicela ke uthamele lihlelo ke utawusitakala kulolu hlangothi. Thank you so much for your call, Blessing. Mbukele, let's now take an ad break. Nasibuya ke titolo sitawukhuluma ke nalenye insha kulolu hlelo ke le US program. Asihlangane futhi nabuya etitolo. Leli Yilungelo lakho. So, to take part in this discussion, and let's now welcome our next caller, Sina Khadi, ulapha ke Pretoria. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Talk to me.
Thank you. So again, you're speaking to Khadi Siabi. I just want to express great gratitude to Dr. Kate Phillip and all the guests that you have on the show. This is a very insightful conversation that is indeed necessary for us as members of the youth to be able to understand if it's not a dead end, when it comes to the opportunities. And I can share my experience. I recently graduated with an honors at the University of Pretoria in International Relations and Politics. And I worked for 2 years in an insurance company to just gain that corporate experience, right? And I've been volunteering in like Toastmasters International to grow in my public speaking skills. I grew my interest in radio, and I've been volunteering at my local radio station to just grow in my volunteering skills, because as has been shared on the show, that it's important to volunteer, grow your CV as much as possible, and have that work experience before going into perhaps entrepreneurship, right? So I, obviously, because there's no opportunities regarding work, I've grown an interest in entrepreneurship as well. And I heard that you've been speaking on the Social Employment Fund and how that can support entrepreneurship. And my question to your guest is regarding what kind of platforms or avenues are available to provide perhaps mentorship and funding when somebody who has gained that work experience and has the qualification to now get the support when it comes to starting a business.
Interesting. Thank you so much for your call, Heidi, and we do appreciate your time and for taking the time to share your story with us. We do appreciate it, and our guest will definitely assist you in that regard, and I'd love the both of you to respond to that. I'm going to start with you, Ravi.
Yeah, so I think that's a great case of someone who is volunteering and doing stuff, and I can say with pretty great confidence that she's going to do well.
Yes.
Even though there might be some bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But I think that's normal. So I think, so there will be a lot of opportunities for people who are exactly exhibiting that sort of attribute and so on. Yes, itself, we've also had to launch our own SME programs simply because there's, to date we've had 28,000 people set up their own business. And we've had to now create our own funding programs to help young people coming through our program or in that age bracket, go forward with their business. And I know nationally there are a lot of programs looking to fund young entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs in different levels.
Yes.
So I would encourage the caller to track that. Also follow the YES website as well on some of the programs.
Okay.
So you just need to get a warm introduction to the people who are looking for you so they can make the match. Because right now I can tell you there are a lot of funders trying to find people to support. Even at an early stage, but if you kind of get over that barrier, they will hook you up, maybe as a supplier to one of the corporates, and so that's what we're doing at the moment, and there's a few programs like that.
All right, Kate, what's your thoughts? And she also touched on mentorship.
Yes.
And whether your program offers such mentorship.
The program offers mentorship for participants in the program. So, you would need to come through the programs to benefit from that mentorship. But I think in the position that she's in, there are a number of places where she should knock on the doors. I mean, firstly, the National Youth Development Agency has offices all over the country, and they've done some really interesting things supporting youth entrepreneurship. So if I was her, I would start there.
Okay.
The CEDA offices, the Department of Small Business Development, also run small business support programs. I know they've just merged CEDA and CIFA, Small Enterprise Development Agency. She should try to find out where is the nearest place where she can get advice in that regard.
Okay.
And then I would Google some of the private sector small enterprise support agencies. If she can get access to the internet and do some Googling, a lot of the corporates have small business support programs, and maybe she can find one that is a good fit.
Okay. Earlier on, we also had a caller, Blessing from Durban, who basically asked, why is it that the non-youth or people who are older than 35 are discriminated against? Because they also have brilliant business plans. They also want to be funded. They also want to be employed. And they also, provide other opportunities for other people.
Yeah, well, the short answer is they're not discriminated against overall because we are talking about youth in this program. But, if you go to the IDC, you go to the Department of Small Business Development, you go to the PIC, those are not youth-focused institutions. Most of our money, most of our programs, 90% is just, or 95% is just South Africans. But I agree, there must be more support for all South Africans. Yeah. I think that's really what we want to say, and it's difficult for all South Africans. So life doesn't end at 35. Hopefully.
Of course, it doesn't.
But the problem why we're focusing on youth is because in terms of joblessness, it's much more concentrated in under 24s and under 35s. But most of our institutions are just generically focused in terms of age, not just youth. Yeah.
And I suppose the people like Blessing who are over the age of 35 can maybe get assistance from the presidential employment stimulus. Does it focus on only the youth or even non-youth as well?
It focuses on non-youth as well. So the Social Employment Fund is all ages. The creative sector stimulus is all ages. Okay. The support that has gone to subsistence farmers has been all ages. We run a program with all the metros, which is all ages. So in general, the employment stimulus programs are inclusive of all ages. Yeah.
And if I can just chip in on that. So we have also had to look at how do we deal with Blessing's problem, which is he's over 35, he runs a small business. Let's say if he wants to. So many of the youth who might come through our program, sometimes we get them hosted in another person's business, such as Blessing's business. So let's say Blessing says, oh, you know what? I'm doing this infrastructure program. If only I had 4 young electricians, maybe they'll come through YES and be placed at Blessing's business. So we still connect with businesses where other age groups are obviously involved. So there's just different ways to configure programs.
Oh, great stuff. Well, thank you so much for pointing that out. Bugeriga sasel carefully reflecting on the Aslan Fusnas Betolo, Lele Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome back. Sakuba futhi nenzaba yethu ke ngekuqashwa kwensha kwe-youth or youth employment. Sine youth employment, YES or YES program expert Ravi Naidoo. Siphinde sibe na Kate Phillips lobuya ke presidential employment stimulus. Now, before we wrap the show, I want to pose this question to both of you. How do you ensure that your programs ensure sustainability, or the jobs that you provide or connect the youth with are sustainable and provide more opportunities for career advancement? Kate?
That is a tough one. And the issue here is that what is really not sustainable in South Africa is our level of unemployment. It's not sustainable for people, it's not sustainable for communities, it's not sustainable for the economy. So what we need as an economy is to unlock sustainable jobs, but we don't have them right now. And so programs like the employment stimulus are a societal response that says, let us create employment while we fix these wider problems. Let us give people economic opportunities and work opportunities. But those work opportunities are not in themselves sustainable. They are placements. They are time-defined placements. And their purpose is to raise aggregate levels of employment in the society to reduce the social impacts of unemployment. But I think we must be clear, the jobs that we are creating are as sustainable as the public support, the fiscal support that goes to them. And that is a strategy and an intervention while we try to fix the wider economic problems. That said, we have to do our level best to ensure that the work experience, the skills gained, the access to networks, the confidence, the capabilities that people get do help them forwards on their pathway of economic participation, whether into formal employment or into self-employment.
Okay.
But I think we must be clear that the jobs in the employment stimulus are a societal response to the level of unemployment. They are not sustainable jobs in themselves, but they are trying to build the capabilities, build the work experience, build pathways that will take people forward on their careers.
All right. Now, Ravi, what's your thoughts on this? I mean, after placing the youth at employment, your job, does it end there?
Yeah, no, so I would say there's it doesn't end there, but it must at least start there. So the focus is, and just to follow on what Kate said, what we want to do is how catalytic is that person going to be because they've come through this program. So we've taken someone with potential, we've given them this experience. The experience should be empowering, should be trained, should have given them other networks, all those things, because what is the solution to youth joblessness is young people who go and become job creators themselves, right? So the solution to youth unemployment would be the youth going to do something. So how have we empowered that person because of that exposure they've had with this company and what they go on to do? So I think the quality of the program is important. So you can have job creation programs that are not very impactful, and those are not the best ones we want to spend our money on. And then there are ones where the quality is such that the person is going to become catalytic. That's what we want. And the second, I would say, you would have to separate out those qualitative programs, the quality ones, from the ones that are kind of pretending. Because I do think...
All right. Unfortunately, we're out of time, unfortunately. But great discussion. Thank you so much for shedding some light onto some of the issues that the youth may be grappling with. We do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming through. Wanyala kembukele sesifikele emaphethelweni ehlelo lethu namhla ngibonge ivakashi tethu ngesikhathi sabo ngithanza bonga kanye nani babukele ngekuba nathi kuze kube ngimanje asihlangane futhi evikini elitako la kubamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure naku SABC Plus lapho ke sitanlethela ke lenye indzaba leta yekukhokhwa kwentsela iTax kubola ukuthi ke the tax season has already kicked off and that's what we will be bringing you next week Tuesday. Don't you miss it. From me Simphiwe Ncongwane and the rest of the team says again sale kahle and wishing you all a great week ahead. Cheers.
Yilungelo